The 80s were full of sci-fi and fantasy rip-offs. Many faded away, but a few turned out far better than expected. Today, I've put together a list of those films. Yes, they may have copied Star Wars, Alien, and Mad Max, but they still had enough personality and wild energy to work on their own. Akira Kurosawa's plots have been reused countless times, and this film is no exception. Just as The Magnificent Seven adapted Seven Samurai, producer Roger Corman approached his own Star Wars-style project by going straight to Kurosawa's template. The result is Battle Beyond the Stars. The story follows the farming planet Akir, threatened by a villain played by John Saxon, who flies a massive ship called the Hammerhead. If the planet refuses to surrender, he plans to use his stellar converter, a not-so-subtle Death Star equivalent, to turn the entire world into a star. A young farm boy is sent out to recruit warriors across the galaxy, gathering a mismatched team to defend his home. The production also hides a surprising name behind its designs. A young James Cameron worked in pre-production as one of several artists competing to design the Akir ship. His winning idea was simple and very Corman appropriate. He shaped the vessel after a pair of breasts. When Corman asked what the design was supposed to be, Cameron simply replied, "Tits." He was hired immediately. With a script by John Sayles and some of the most impressive visual effects ever created for a Corman film, later reused in numerous other movies, Battle Beyond the Stars became one of the great low-budget sci-fi efforts of the era. Contamination is an Italian sci-fi horror film that was even marketed as a sequel to Alien in some territories, and that wasn't just a distributor trick. Writer-director Luigi Cozzi originally titled it Alien Arrives on Earth and intended it as a continuation of the ideas introduced in Ridley Scott's hit. The story begins with an abandoned ship drifting into New York Harbor. A team boards the vessel and discovers large, pulsating green eggs filled with a toxic liquid that causes human bodies to explode on contact. The trail eventually leads to their source, a giant alien cyclops that relies on human slaves to spread the deadly pods across Earth. Technically, the film is lacking in nearly every department. The gore effects, mostly body explosions, are often poor, made even more obvious by Cozzi's decision to linger on them in slow motion. Acting, writing, and cinematography aren't much stronger, yet the film still manages to hold your attention. Cozzi isn't aiming for artistry. He wants monsters, aliens, chases, and simple entertainment, supported by a surprisingly strong score that gives the movie a distinct, funky edge. In the early 1980s, Peter Hyams wanted to make a Western, but the genre was considered dead, and no one was interested in financing a traditional frontier story. Adapting to the era's sci-fi boom, Hyams reimagined High Noon as a violent science fiction Western set in outer space. The idea worked, and soon he was shooting in England with a budget of about $16 million. Sean Connery stars as William O'Neill, a by-the-book police marshal stationed at a mining colony on Jupiter's moon, Io. When a string of gruesome deaths leads him to uncover a drug-running operation inside the mines, O'Neill refuses to look the other way. He quickly finds himself at war with the colony's operations manager, Shepard, played by Peter Boyle, and targeted by a team of hired killers sent to eliminate him. Much of the film was shot at Pinewood Studios, the same place where Alien had been filmed just 2 years earlier. Outland was also the first production to use Introvision, a front projection process allowing actors and backgrounds to exist together in camera. Hyams hired young cinematographer Stephen Goldblatt as insurance, in case the technique failed, but ultimately shot most of the film himself. The characters are simple but well cast. Connery brings the needed toughness, Boyle makes an ideal corporate villain, and Jerry Goldsmith's tense, synth-driven score enhances both the Western structure and the sci-fi setting. Together, these elements make Outland a film so effective you almost wish there were more like it. Galaxy of Terror may be one of the strongest entries among Alien ripoffs, and it remains a must-see for fans of sci-fi horror and creature features. And like Battle Beyond the Stars, it is another Roger Corman production that features early special effects and design work from a young James Cameron. The story follows a rescue crew that crash lands during a mission and discovers an ancient pyramid. Inside, they learn that the structure can manifest whatever fear exists in a person's mind, leading to a series of violent, grotesque, and deeply disturbing deaths. The film is packed with enough gore, violence, and nudity to satisfy most sci-fi and horror fans, and it is best remembered for an extremely explicit scene involving a giant insect and one of the crew members. Forbidden World, also known as Mutant, was Roger Corman's quick follow-up to Galaxy of Terror, and it's a much more direct Alien clone than its predecessor. The story centers on a genetic life form engineered as a potential food source for the galaxy. Unfortunately, the experiment mutates out of control and begins killing the crew stationed at a remote research facility. A troubleshooter arrives with his robot assistant to assess the situation and quickly concludes that the only solution is to destroy the creature by any means necessary. The film has everything you'd expect from low-budget sci-fi horror: gratuitous nudity, bizarre sexual situations, an alien spider hybrid, bodies melting into slimy goo, and a heavy dose of violence and gore. It originally received an X rating because of how graphic it was. Modern DVD releases include 2 cuts, one closer to straight horror and another with bits of humor restored that were removed from the original release. This is one of many early 80s sci-fi films that owed a great deal to the success of Star Wars, while also blending in a dose of Mad Max for good measure. The premise is wonderfully simple. A lone adventurer named Wolf takes on a mission to rescue 3 stranded women from a dangerous and hostile planet. Once you get past the extremely 80s opening credits, the effects are surprisingly solid. But the real strength of the movie lies in its character dynamics and the genuine sense of adventure, the feeling that you're traveling through a strange world full of danger, tension, and excitement. The film also benefits from its practical design work, especially its vehicles. The standout is the Scrambler, Wolf's all-terrain car tank hybrid that looks impressively modern today. With no CGI involved, everything on screen feels tactile and handmade, giving the movie a grounded physical energy that defines its charm. This Italian sci-fi action film sits at a point where exploitation cinema started stealing from the very blockbusters it helped inspire. The Terminator is the perfect example of a B-movie premise, a time-traveling robot and near-constant violence that somehow crossed into mainstream classic status. That mix of success and grindhouse attitude made it ideal knockoff material, and Hands of Steel is often considered one of the wildest imitators. The story follows a cyborg assassin who unexpectedly develops a conscience and breaks from his programming. As he goes on the run, he drifts through a dusty, neon-lit America and eventually gets pulled into an underground arm wrestling circuit filled with rowdy tough guys. If that setup alone doesn't grab you, this might not be your kind of movie. As an entry in the Italo-exploitation canon, Hands of Steel delivers all the expected mayhem: big action, strange detours, absurd character moments, and a tone that feels just a little unhinged. It's loud, trashy, and fully committed to its own ridiculous premise. The kind of film you watch for the concept alone and never regret.